Sometimes you start playing a couple, and every now and then you're playing good chess, so let's look at another one. So, there should be certain rules to follow in chess. Like, I don't play e4 a lot, but when I do, I like to pretend I know what I'm doing still, even though I'm not a e4 player. Best by test and all that. But, you probably shouldn't play an opening against a guy who wrote a book on the opening. It's needless to say, I understand it from both sides of the board, and I'm going to play probably a line that I think gives people the most chances to go wrong. Up until my book, The Alekine's Defense, The Dark Knight Rises, only on Chessable, came out, the exchange variation with c takes d6 is quite good. And even here, d5, this is Garbo. You could just play c5 here. And then he can't really justify his position. But I wasn't too into playing like a completely dominant French defense. I was in the mood to actually play the position, so I force a transposition. But if your opponent plays this d5 garbage, you can just go c5, and he's getting murdered. But e takes d6, and my opponent goes c takes d6, and honestly, I like seeing this when I have white, because I'm going to go for the ideal setup. Knight c3, g6, bishop e3, rook c1, and here's a key moment, b3, because in the event of d5, there is no c5, knight c4. Okay, so here, this is the position that was thought to just break the Alekhine for the longest time, and I think it gives excellent practical chances for white, objectively. But being that I wrote a book with black, I recommended a move that I feel gives really good chances for black, which is bishop f5, and leads to a complicated game. And you could take a look, if you're not interested in purchasing the full course, go to the short and sweet, and you got an overview of some of the lines, because those can be interesting. Bishop f5. So it's like understanding, when you look in the database, by far the most popular move for black is knight c6. So if you're someone who's like, I don't like books, I just read the database, well, here's the problem. If you don't do your own research and understand and just follow blindly the first choice in the database, you will run into lost positions and not even understand why. Like, if white plays normally here, this is black's stream. He just wants white to be like, all right, knight f3. And like, okay, good. I'm going to go bishop g4, bishop e2. All right, d5. Okay, and this is what's called the Alekhine dream position. And what has happened here is we have secured with black the pawn on d4. And notice, we've traded off the bishop for a knight that's defending d4. This knight comes to f5, and everyone is coming to bear on d4. So white's going to need to start playing a little bit of defense here. When I go knight f5, say if queen d2, knight h4. And I've seen this before, knight takes f3. So bishop g4 was played against me in numerous games. h5, now bishop g5, bishop f6, key in between move. And already, say bishop f3 here leads to queen takes f3, which is mentioned in the text. So this is the dream position, was this knight f3. So you need to understand why knight c6 is garbage. The entire plan for black is needing to play d5 at some point. So if you play d5 straight away, we're kicking the knight around, another knight. It's bad enough having one knight kicked around, but two, and then knight b4, knight e5 is definitely the move. And then I like bishop e2 because it stops that. And I played h3 as well and then f4, but this position has been played numerous times, but white wins almost 70% of the games. So what we end up having here is a perfectly awesome pawn structure for white, easy piece play, and I can get rid of the only trump that black has, which is the bishop pair, by going bishop d4. So get wrecked. Like, it's over. There's no point in playing this position with black. So when my opponent goes knight b4, I think this makes it even worse. So I'm going to go, well, get in your hole. And then I played bishop d4. And I mean, Engine's saying that this is inaccurate because he gets play after bishop takes d4, knight c5. But I feel like his pieces would get kicked around more in the long term. So a little bit inaccurate, but this made my opponent think. And after 30 seconds in a 3-minute game, he plays knight b8. And now this is where the critical play begins. Takes, and you got to learn when just to develop versus when to go outside of the box and press your opponent. I think a lot of my students have the problem when I'm analyzing games that they just want to stay in theory, just want to stay in their comfort zone. And where's the creativity in your play? You're just going to be a pale representation of everyone you've ever studied if you don't think outside the box. It's like none of the most beautiful and creative combinations in chess history came out of somebody who was just copying someone else. That's not the way it works. Take pride in the chess. Play for the gusto. h4. h4 says, all right, your king's weakened. I want to attack him. And normally when you play this type of move, especially in fast time controls, you can get a knee-jerk reaction from your opponent. h5 is probably the way to go, but my opponent goes knight 8 d7. Okay, h5 myself then. Well, you're bringing this knight over to defend, but okay, I'm going to keep the tension. I'm going to let you have more opportunities to go wrong here because black's position is by no means easy to play. So a move like king g8 probably needs to be played here, but I'm not even sure. But I know the move that he played, bishop f5, does not make the situation any better because I don't care about king safety if your king dies before you can ever get to mine. g4. Go away. And now g5. Of course I want you to take on h5. It cracks open the file for me. And you're pretty much forced to do it because after knight g8, what he played in the game, this is now getting even worse. Queen d4 check. The pain is here. You must go f6. And I'm in no hurry. I am not taking on f6 and letting him have any counterplay. H takes g6 on the other hand. Opens up my rook. And Engine says bishop d3. Like me, I wanted to get my last piece in. And my dream was to go knight h3, knight f4, and just hammer him. But he makes a good decision here in clips. But I've got full development, coordination. His king is open. His knight on g8 is out of the game. The knight on b6 is doing nothing. The rook on a8 is doing nothing. The queen is the only piece that can become active. So that's what he does. And I'm not losing time here. Bishop g4. And the Engine literally gives for black here that the best move is queen takes g4. That's how ridiculous this position is. After e6, d takes e6 was better than what I played, bishop takes, because black's able to get some coordination. And it liked king d2 better than my king f1. I felt like me going king f1 would be a lot better because I'm watching the f-pawn. Because if the f-file ever opens, which undoubtedly it's about to happen soon, I thought my king would be, tethered to the pawn safer. Which the evaluation didn't change that much. All right, rook takes, pawn takes. He's trying to get some play. Now, queen h4 is the natural move. But I said to myself, okay, I like the positional squeeze here. He's not going anywhere. Let's keep his knight stupid. I go rook e3. Queen f5 bothers the g-pawn. So knight e4 protects it. d5 makes a lot of sense. Now knight c5. I didn't consider that tactical continuation. I just took, which helps him with his piece play. So that does make sense in retrospect. Knight c5 is a nice move that should just end things. Yeah, when I'm up material, I'm just like, I'll trade down and win. And I was playing faster because my opponent, he's now down to 20 seconds. And after rook d3, it gets worse, 19 seconds. And then at this point, I'm like, okay, I have a minute 10, and my opponent has 19 seconds. I have a completely commanding position. Even if I pitch this, I'm still going to flag him. In 3-0 flat, real blitz chess, you are dead to rights with this type of time difference and this type of position. So Rook C7 is actually the most critical move, and I was just playing the flag at this point. So I take, and I'm okay right here, but I need to play the in-between move, Rook G3 check. I do that, and then we're going to take, or then we're going to move the knight. But I went ahead and gambled because my opponent is now down to about 10 seconds, and of course he doesn't take the piece, in which case I just would have done this, and we have a dead equal position. But with 10 seconds, is it really equal? No, it's not. You lose. You 100% lose in this position with 10 seconds. I don't care if you're one of the best bullet players in the world. If somebody has a full minute over you and you have 10 seconds in this type of ending where there's really not much risk, it's over. So knight takes, and now it's just a matter of don't get mated yourself. Since the king is a bit trapped, if I just avoid back rank mate, my opponent beats himself for me. Check. Win the piece, and with it, the game. So that'll do it for the white side, quickly, of this Alekhine defense. And I mean, I'm a huge lover of the Alekhine opening, but every now and then I get to play against it, and they didn't play the lines I recommend. Play the lines I recommend. You'll be okay. Promise. I do it all the time. Check the videos. All right, have a good one.